Well, g'day, Max here again. Welcome back to the shop. So, let's get this back together. So, she's been apart for a while. We've done a lot of repairs, and hopefully, fingers crossed, she'll be pretty smooth sailing for the reassembly. I had a few interesting comments. Why the series, did not have a part 13 in it. 13 is actually not an unlucky number for me. This is a lot of years ago. I spent probably 2 years at one job rebuilding predominantly Caterpillar 3500 series engines. And I suppose the majority of those engines, when I'd take them outside of my rebuild area, used to take them to an area in the wash bay so we could hook them up with water and fuel and fire them up and run them before they went to the Caterpillar dealer for their test run on the dyno. And I suppose out of all the engines I'd done, the majority I would have fired them up on the 13th of every month. And never had one problem, so it's hasn't been an unlucky number for me. Touch wood. Okay, let's get this piece of German engineering excellence reassembled. Right, let's get the cylinder together so I can get it off the bench and create some room. So there's an O-ring, goes on the rod first. This just seals the piston. So when the piston's on, it just stops oil migrating from the oil side, which is this side, through to the non-oil side. So our piston seals go on next. So we've got a wear ring, back up, piston seal, back up, and wear ring, other half of the piston. So all of that goes onto that. Retainer cap screw. Pull that down tight. Okay, so this can be inserted into the cylinder. Plenty of oil around the piston. I don't think we're going to be able to wheel this one in, so I'll just give it a tap in. So there, it's fairly firm, which is a good thing. Okay. So now front cap, just squirt a bit of oil down that rod. And the bore. There's no gasket necessary for under this front cap, as it's not an oil side of the cylinder. However, there is for the rear. So let's cut out a gasket. So we get our studs, hold the whole show together. Last up, we just have this adjuster. Goes in the end there. This actually forms as another part that screws in and holds this anchored to the other part of the saw. Okay, that is our completed cylinder. So we can set that to one side, and I'll get all of the rest of the parts cleaned up so we can reassemble the main drive end of the saw. I'm just doing a test fit just to check the location of our pivot shaft bearing, which is on the other side. Just to make sure, you know, we are in the right distance and that, and everything looks spot on. Okay, so that's all good then, so we can set this part aside. But you can see here the amount, once it's all assembled, there's quite a lot of counterweight going back for the saw lift. That's why it just needs the hydraulics, that single acting cylinder, to put the downward pressure on the saw. So yeah, it relieves the hydraulic pressure and the saw comes back up. Not sure who the tosser is that flaked this. He did a lovely job, but now I've got to clean out all those chips. All full of flaking chips inside. Ah, well. Right, so first up we need to get our crankshaft assembly assembled up and in the hole. So I'm just going to get a bit of grease. All the bearings are greased on this. So we need to get some grease into the bearings. And I'm just using a grease needle to get in. Gets it right in where you need it. Remember, this is the only time that this thing can get grease. Okay, should be enough in that one. I'll do our con rod next. See, it's got through a little bit more. Okay. So we need to get the con rod onto the crankshaft. Actually, before we do that, we need to get this cam on. So remember this cam that we repaired. So we'll head over to the press and get the cam pressed on this area here. The orientation of this is critical. There's a set screw there which locates in that hole there. Because if you get this 180 degrees out, your lift function for the return stroke will not be timed correctly. So, okay, we'll meet you over at the press. I've oiled up the shaft and the ID of the cam. So we've eyeballed our keyway for alignment. And we'll be keeping an eye on the alignment for this set screw divot as well. Although I would expect that would automatically come into depth alignment when the cam hits the shoulder. But yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on it just in case. Looking all right. So we've got a little bit to go before we bottom out on the shoulder, and you can see our set screw position is coming up. Okay, we've pressed up onto our shoulder and our set screw position there is in good alignment. While we're over at the press, we might as well get our connecting rod pushed on. So we're sort of supported there, and I've got a spacer to support the crank throw here. I just had to have a quick look at the disassembly video to make sure we get the orientation correct on this. Otherwise you lose access. You can't get in to tighten up that clamping screw there for the gudgeon pin, or wrist pin if you're in the USA. Okay, so I think that goes on there. What we can do is put the old bearing. I don't know if we're going to have enough height here. Oh yeah. I'll start, we'll just press with the old bearing. Actually, we'll press with this first. Nah, we're going to press with the old bearing. Don't want to get caught and press this on and not be able to get it off. I think we'll be right. It's cut down firm there. That's it, we're there. So that's what we couldn't do with the old one. Give it the wiggle. She was quite jammed up because the bearing ball had gone oval, the conrod had stretched. Okay, let's head back to the bench. We've got a circlip to go on here and our locking screw to go in the cam. Right, let's get our retainer circlip on. Rounded side, flat side. That just happens, that's a result on the way they're stamped out when they're made. In this application, we want the flat side to the outside. So in the event of any end thrusting on the inner race, the square edge of the circlip comes up on the square edge of the circlip groove. Sometimes, and I've seen it happen, if you got it the other way, the radius edge can come up on the groove if you've got any end thrusting issues and that bearing's moving, and it can work the circlip off, which is not what you want. So in this application, yeah, flat side out. Both are in. What I like to do is put one leg in and make sure I can move that clip, that it's fully seated. Okay. Okay, we'll get our locking screw in. I am really glad that was a very firm, a nice tight press fit on, this cam. Would have hated to have that, a bit slack, because there's not much holds it. There's nothing holds it in position this way here. There's no circlips or retaining, retention at all. Nice and tight on that one. Okay, I think we can get her in. Let me just check to make sure this key. Oh no, we'll be able to get that in. No, let me check it now. If the key's a tight fit, it makes it easier to put in. And now this is the drive key for the ball gear. That's all right. It's not tight. The gear, however, is a tight fit on that shaft, so okay. Now, due to the type of roller bearing this is, it's only retained back in one direction. Some roller bearings have a double thrust setup, this doesn't. So what this means, we've got to push this in a little bit further than what we intend to. Then when we assemble the other side, it'll come back into its correct position. And I've got to make sure as well we have the orientation correct here. As the drive pin is at the top. Yes, it is. I just confirmed it on the thing. Okay, send it. Make sure we're straight. Yeah, all good. Unfortunately, there's no user-friendly method to get this in. I think we're a bit... We're there. Now I'm just going to get a pen punch and just tap this bearing in its last final bit. So I'll get it in this position here. Beautiful. Yeah, you try and be gentle most of the time, but sometimes you got to give it a bit of welly to get things together. Okay, so I'll get this spun around because I think I'm going to put our ball gear in and button up the opposite side before we put our saw bow in. But we can get our oil seal in here first, seal retainer. And just do it like this. I do often use a little bit of grease on gasket faces. You know, if it's just for oil retention, it's fine. What that means is you can, not that it's going to happen in this case, but like if you're out in the field on machines, it means you can remove the gasket without it, you know, without it sticking and breaking. Gasket goo has its places, just not in this application. See how there's play on our seal retainer? Well, we need to have some form of alignment between the seal and our bearing before we tighten that up. Otherwise it could compromise the sealing ability of the seal if it's tightened up, biased to one side. I'll zoom you in, I'll show you what I mean. See how that can move? So it is possible for that to be tightened up and that seal leak because it's got no pressure on one side of the seal. So we'll just use the ram that actually goes in there. It'll go through the seal, enter into the bearing. And I can nip these up. Okay, we're just using a couple of old Caterpillar cylinder liners, just a couple that I've saved from previous rebuild. They make good stands for this sort of thing. Not load rated of course, but I'll just get a piece of timber or something for this side here. Or I'll just slide these along like that. Perfect. We'll leave the crane on just for safety's sake. Here's a couple of shots of some of the stuff that I used to do.
Oh, just a quick look into my daytime job. Just overhauling a 3512 series Caterpillar engine for, well, it's actually out of a 657 motor scraper. This is the Huey version, hydraulic unit injection. So the Huey pump mounts onto there. And there's another one in the queue waiting to be done.
So yeah, something different. So alright, let's get back to our project at hand. So I want to support our crankshaft from underneath, so when we're dealing with the gear on the top, it doesn't push through and fall out. We'll just come up with a bottle jack. Okay, so we're just probably a little bit too much weight there. Take a bit off. Yeah, we've just got a minuscule bit of weight on that jack, just taking the weight of the crank. Yeah, so that gives the shaft support, because that gear's pretty heavy and we've got a fair bit of dicking around to get it in position, and that means it won't push that whole crankshaft through the hole. Okay. That's that cap screw that holds that shaft that we put in, the main pivot shaft. I just put a bit of a medium thread locker on it, because if that was to work its way out, it'll rub up against this end of this shaft and just make particulates that'll go through everywhere. So all good there. Right, gear o'clock. What was that? Bear o'clock? No, gear o'clock. So you may recall we drilled and tapped the end of the shaft for 16mm, and that's for now, so we could put a puller rod in and get this gear on the shaft, as it's a bit of a press fit. Heating the gear up would work too, but should be right. I'll set it on an angle. Oh, fuck. I'm going to line this keyway up, so I'm going to need my torch. Oh, and the bore and the shaft have been liberally oiled. So that alignment looks okay. So we'll just give it a couple of gentle tocks down, just to make sure it's going to move. Okay, all good there. Now, this gear's got to go on at the same time. And I just gave that a couple of gentle twocks. Yeah, let me just lever this up a bit to get this other pinion in. Actually, I think we had this in first. Yeah, because this is this gear that goes in, and it's probably easier to put it in at the same time. Although you could fit this bearing in first and then drop it in. We'll just pry this back up, and we're just going to fit them or assemble them together. Well, luckily we're not tight on here, so well, we are. Okay, let me just set up my puller, because that I thought that would have been a bit looser. I don't think we're going to get enough play. Well, we might. Got it. Okay. Cool. Okay, we'll set up our puller stud and we can send this gear home now. Yeah, so that moved the whole crankshaft up a bit then. That's what gave us the room. But that will settle down into position, into its correct position, once we, get the outer cover and all that home. So at the moment, yeah, I won't be able to turn it because the crankshaft is up in the housing too far. So no, that's all good. I think realistically we're going to have to use our hollow stem jack to push this on. We'll just try this first. It's going. I think I'm bumping the camera everywhere. No, perfect. Safe to send it. We're going to need a special tool if I can find it. I think 15/16. That's the one we want. 8S1600. Probably a Caterpillar one. Let's see if the old Ingersoll Rand will do the bizzo. It probably would if it didn't piss all the air out the swivel. Okay, leak fixed. I just had to reseal the handle. But my compressor won't keep up, so it's just little spurts. Right, I'll just have to set up a spacer now because this shaft has to come through the gear a fair way, so we're up as far as we can with that setup. So with the spacer now, that'll let the shaft come up inside. And at the same time, that ball bearing down there has to be tapped into its bore with a long pin punch. As yeah, they both got to come down together simultaneously. Yeah, so we got a bit on the bearing. And a bit on the gear. This is why I never ever use brass punches on bearings. The chips of brass always come off and go into your bearing, and in this case you've got no access to clean it out. Yeah, mild steel punches, or this is material here is like, it's a good quality steel, it's no mild steel, but yeah, that's why I don't use brass or aluminium. I mean, the bearings are hardened, high tensile shaft, it's not going to hurt the bearings. I think we're not far off. Sounds home. Yeah, she's home. Now our gear, we'll see if we've got anything left here. Okay, that's it, we're home. Everything's fully seated. There's enough room there left for the outer cover bearing and a circlip. Which is this one here, which I forgot to order. As long as, yeah, I forgot to order that lip seal as well. I might just knock them out, rip down the bearing shop and get them. Next up will be our gear cover. I've already fitted the new oil seal in here and the new bearing in here. This bearing here is the one we had to heat up when we stripped the thing down. So as far as sealant goes, I'm just using a bit of this Loctite sealant, as there's no gasket on this face, it's just sealant. And I forgot to press record, so we just got a bead of that sealant so we can get the cover on there. Just a bit of oil around the surfaces where the bearings are going to be tapped on. Everything looks okay from here. Okay. So we tap the inner race down on this one. And at the same time, we're tapping down onto the bearing over the far side as well. So I'm going to get something a bit better to tap on. We have exceeded the height of our camera stand, so I'm just going to get a ring to tap on, as I hate tapping on the edge of a bearing like that. Okay, I got that same bit of tubing that we used earlier on. Got to make sure our dowels are lining up. That one is. Okay. Nearly there. Okay, we're there as far as the cover going onto the shaft, so just got a circlip to go on. So the whole assembly still has to go down, but okay. We need to remove the jack we've got supporting the crankshaft. So as it is at the moment, our cover and bearing assembly have located the crankshaft in the right position vertically, but this gap will go when we lower this jack down. So we're just using the jack to take the weight of the crankshaft while we install everything. So we can release the jack. We'll get it right out of the way. We can't do a full rotation because the web on our crank is hitting the casting up underneath. So we'll just tap it down. So you should see this gap disappear. Like that. We'll get some screws in. Just got to hit it a few times, make sure everything's seated correctly and we're not loading up on a bearing. I think we're there. Okay, cool. Let's give it a rotation from underneath. Lovely. Okay. Well, okay, I've just got a couple of other small bits and pieces, a couple of covers and a plunger to go in here, which I have to sort out yet, so I want to put them in while we're still in this position, then we can roll it over. So I think that'll be in the next video. We've had a good session. Drive, yeah, all went together very well, no problems really, so far so good. So yeah, I think next time we'll have this rolled over and we'll fit the bow and the other half, and we should be able to complete the assembly of this section. So anyway, cheers, thanks for watching, and yeah, hopefully see you next video.